I am so thrilled to introduce you to Francesca Page, honestly, a hero of mine for the work that she's doing. And I am thrilled to meet her in person. I've been following Francesca for a while now and the incredible work that she's doing both on, on different social media platforms that she's sharing. And Francesca just came back from UNOC in Nice, and I'd love her to tell you about that as well, is doing this incredible work to honestly, to do the same kind of passionate, purposeful work that I am. So that's, I guess, why I'm in love with her, that we are trying to change the metaphor of negativity of the natural world and to bring beauty to it and love and connection so that we will take better care of it. And the pathways that Francesca is offering us of just an incredible swath of brilliant art in all different forms, as well as voice that is sharing stories. So welcome, Francesca. I am so thrilled for you to be here. And please just tell us your version of yourself. That was my version.
Oh, thank you. That was a lovely intro. I really Thanks for having me. Yes, I'd love to introduce myself. So I'm a visual artist. I work with a variety of different mediums, from illustration, digital illustration, painting, photography, underwater photography, writing. I do believe that art is going to save this planet. Art is this universal language, being able to connect with people from different backgrounds, cultures, languages. It can transcend that, and something that I'm incredibly passionate about, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot of throughout this podcast. It is my purpose in life to try and communicate the natural world, and my curiosity that led me to sort of create and pave this sort of career path of sort of combining my passions for the underwater world and nature with creativity. And yeah, that's a little bit about me, but I'm sure we'll dive a little bit more into that.
Can't wait. And the photo, the art, not a photo, the art right above you, just to highlight the two different, totally different directions that your art takes. Two of many. I'm just seeing it now, and hopefully people will watch on YouTube. But you've got this magnificent piece of art that is so passionately illustrated to send a message. And then you've got this like scientific, because you are a scientist at the same time and study whatever you're doing art on to such incredible depths, no pun intended, that it blows me away. So I can't wait to share your shark project and the other work that you're doing. So anyway, do you want to just quickly talk about those two pieces of art?
Yeah, like with my work, I'm not a scientist actually. I wish I was, but I come from a family of scientists, and unfortunately maths was my downfall. So I wasn't able to go into the science world, but I'm really passionate at communicating science. My twin sister is she's actually a doctor in coral science, and I come from a family of scientists. I'm surrounded by these people who are doing incredible work in protecting our natural world. And then that's where I come into play. I'm that bridge that sort of bridges the gap between science and you and the rest of the people. Art is this incredible communicator. So with my work, I'm heavily inspired by my own encounters and own adventures. I really struggle to create art if I'm not got this like emotional connection with it. So like the painting here, I've called it Pura Vida. I spent a year in Costa Rica, and this is quite a few years ago now. And I kind of wanted to create this painting that was inspired by sort of like a year of adventures into one painting. So we have like Patrick the toucan, who I met at the Toucan Rescue Ranch in San Jose. And then I did some turtle restoration, conservation work, and then the butterfly and the sunset. Yeah, so to me, it was like Costa Rica all in one. And then obviously the scientific illustration. That's kind of where my kind of journey as an artist began, was with scientific illustration. And then, in the space of nearly a decade, it sort of spanned off into lots of different directions.
I mean, I did a little digging, because that's, the fun of the path you came from. And we have to hear your story, okay? Because the only parts I really know, and there are little bits are, and I just learned, is it an identical twin sister? Is there another one of you out?
No, not identical. And we're IVF actually. So we are very much sisters born on the same day, but we shared a test tube. So
love that. I know. And I grew up in when we used to call it test tube babies. So like the fact that you have these two beautiful people in part of our world is such an incredible gift to science, right? So all I know is that you actually were terrified and had a phobia about the water, the oceans, pools because of sharks. There's got to be a story behind that. I know my son had this terrible fear of land animals as well as sea animals, because a a flying squirrel fell into his bed on his pillow when he was very young, and he didn't sleep with a pillow. We were just talking about it for like 15 years. And he got sort of pushed down in a pool very soon after the experience with the squirrel, that a dog that was much bigger than him sort of pushed him down, not to, because just that's the way things happen in a pool. And he spent years terrified of animals, of being close to animals. And then he begged us for a dog, and we got a dog, and he is now in love with nature. And he had, it's these moments, right, of creating fear, the Jaws movie that everyone became afraid of sharks, like that you and I are both working on, and the moment of change. So like when you were 13, somehow you ended up in a scuba diving trip. So tell us how we get rid, all of what I just started.
Yeah, I feel like with my journey becoming completely ocean obsessed, and obviously sharks are a very special place in my heart. I feel like my journey is something that a lot of people can relate to. I didn't grow up by the ocean. My partner, he's obsessed with the ocean, and he's got very he grew up by the ocean, he spent every day. So that's where his love for the ocean came from. But with mine, it was very much a journey. I had a near drowning experience when I was 3, and I have very vivid memories of it. It was probably a lot more, I was 3, so in my brain, it was probably a lot more dramatic than it actually was. But that was it. I was very much like, even going into a swimming pool was a big no for me. I learned, my dad forced me to learn to swim. So I kind of ticked the boxes with swimming. But then I was like, no, I don't really want to go.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. And so, I grew up like with a very active family. So hiking in mountains and being out in nature was a really big part of my childhood. And I was obsessed with drawing tigers and big cats and lots of different land animals. And I still am very passionate about land animals. But the ocean was just this thing of like, it was this blue desert that I would look at. And that was as far as we're going to get with being anywhere near this body of water. And then when I was 13, I think this shows a little bit about my dad's parenting style. I think he was like, enough's enough. We can't have one of my kids just
right
to go in the ocean or do anything, not even a swimming pool. I genuinely thought a shark was going to eat me in a swimming pool. Like it was this weird narrative that I built in my head. And so he bought me scuba diving lessons in a local swimming pool. There was just some tri dives going. And so he just bought me 3, and he's like, you're going to go do it. And I was like, you are kidding me. I'm not doing this. I was very reluctant, but I had a one-on-one session. I think my dad must have said to the teacher, she's very scared. She needs some help. I went under the water for the first time, and obviously I had like social anxiety. I had all these things that I guess as a teenager you're going through. I just went underwater for the first time, blew bubbles, and I remember just feeling the sense of calm and just it's such a peaceful place, even in the swimming pool. And I kind of got obsessed. And for like the space of 2 years, I was every single week going to this local swimming pool. And then I got to a point where I was helping younger people, but I still wasn't certified. I remember the instructor saying to me, in order to get your open water, you need to go in the open ocean. And I was like, oh, no. Like the swimming pool is good. I'm good with the swimming pool. And he's like, no, we're going in the ocean. So I then went on my first scuba diving trip at 15 to Gozo, which is just off of Italy. Went in the ocean for the first time. I didn't see much. I saw a conch and a sea cucumber, and that was pretty much it. I was sold. I was like, wow, this place is amazing. Really taught me, like, learning to scuba dive. It taught me that fear was all in the mind, and that this narrative that I built up in my head. And now I try and approach, like, if I'm fearful of something, I realize that actually that fear, one, is coming from a place of instincts. We are animals at the end of the day, and we don't want to die. And so you're going to have those natural, like, maybe be careful. But it was just a narrative that I built up in my head. And then I kind of just got obsessed with diving. When you put your head underwater and see how magical it is, this alien world, and you feel weightlessness. And for, space of 60 minutes, you don't have to talk to anyone. You can just be in that moment, and it's like the most amazing sense of mindfulness. It led me to, when I graduated from art school, I went and then worked as a scuba diving instructor. Well, I went and did my qualifications and built up to be a scuba instructor, and worked for that for a little bit. And that's where I discovered underwater photography. I hadn't really picked up a camera. I was really into photography growing up, but I kind of stopped for a few years. And then I bought a little compact camera, and I thought, you know what, I want to take some really nice shots of fish to paint from. And that was as far as it was going to go. But then I fell in love with that. And then now I also have a career in that. So it's sort of this, I feel like life is a journey, right? And I feel like you're constantly presented with these paths. And if you pick one, it kind of leads you on to the next, and you just never know where it's going to take you.
As long as you approach life that way, which you are, right? Like that, let's see where this path takes me. There's something fabulous in any one of these paths. So let's pick one. So there were two things that I wanted to ask you. One is, did your sister, because she's into Carl, so how did your sister, is it just two of you?
Yes. Well, I've got a brother as well, but
Okay.
it was really us that kind of, yeah, I don't know, my brother, he likes the ocean, but I mean, my sister and I are the only like ocean obsessed people in my whole family. I'm like, when I go to family gatherings, they're like, oh, how's the fish stuff? And I'm like, yeah, it's good. It's more than just that, but yeah, it's good. Yeah, so I think my sister and I very much like we found the ocean together. When we were 17, we went to Indonesia and we did like a coral restoration project, just like you do, like volunteering. But I mean, at that time, we didn't know anything about corals, very naive, very open to everything. And yeah, that kind of, I think very much a little light bulb went off in both of our heads. And that's caused my sister, she now is a coral scientist, doing some amazing things for coral research. And then something that really sort of changed my perspective with sharks, because I learned to scuba dive. I still was scared of sharks. Like I still, even just seeing like a black tip reef shark, which is a very harmless shark in the ocean, I'd be like, oh my God, it's terrifying, even though they're only about a meter long and they're very harmless. And I was in the Philippines. I was about 17-ish years old, give or take. And I'm sure lots of people who are listening who love sharks and diving know of Malapascua in the Philippines, which is a very popular dive spot to see thresher sharks. Wow. Do you know what a thresher shark is?
So describe it, because I watched so many of your videos about the different sharks that you've studied, the 200 plus, yeah. I'm sure. And each one you speak of with such passion and joy and love, and differentiating them and that they're not scary and all the rest. So tell us about thresher sharks.
Yeah, so thresher sharks, these are an incredible shark. Their tail is as long as their body, and these have these huge eyes. They usually live at quite deep depths, but they'll come up to these cleaning stations to get cleaned, which is where little tiny fish will come, and it's like
incredible, right? Like, let's just put it out there, right? Like, if you don't, when you learn about this cleaning station thing, it is the most mind-blowing thing that like it changes your whole view of life under the ocean, that there is so much systemic activity going on in these ecosystems, that there are cleaning stations where specific fish go, and that's their job, and they get protected by doing it. And there are fish and sharks and turtles and all the rest that know where to go. The whole thing is honestly just completely out of science fiction, but it's so real. So go ahead. Sorry, I get really excited about cleaning stations.
It's an exciting thing. Like the ocean is this incredible place, and I feel like that's something as a storyteller, I just want to communicate it. I know that I'm privileged in the sense that I'm able to go underwater, and I've had those experiences, and it's made me feel like actually as my role as a storyteller, as a communicator, I need to communicate this. It's actually, especially right now, there's never been a more important time in human history to communicate the natural world and to connect people on an emotional level, which is where I think art serves as that beautiful vehicle, because it is emotive. It allows us to feel something. And that's really, when you feel something, that's when you're going to want to protect it. And I think with me, like I've felt a lot, especially underwater. And so this particular experience with a thresher shark, and something that's really cool about thresher sharks is they have these huge tails and they use them as a whip. So they actually have very small mouths. They're massive sharks. Their body's not actually really that big. It's just because they have these huge tails. And how they do is they literally stun their prey, and their tail can whip at 60 miles per hour, which is just incredible. And then they'll
in the water, which is restrictive.
Mind-blowing that they're able to do this, and then they'll go and pick their prey. So yeah, they're just amazing creatures. They're also, I think, very adorable looking. They have these huge eyes, almost like manga characters. They're very, very cute. Anyway, so I did a paddy shark specialty course, one of those sort of things you do. And it was my first time learning about sharks. I remember I was quite reluctant to do the course. I was like, oh yeah, why would I want to learn about sharks? But I did it anyway, because I think there was a discount or something. I don't know. I was young and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I started learning about sharks and learning about how many different types of sharks and like the biology and how important they are for the ecosystem. And we kill 100 million sharks every year. And I was just like, I remember this information overload. And I was like, whoa, I had no idea how cool they were and how important they were. And also how many are disappearing from our oceans. And a part of it is that you have to go dive with one. And I remember that part. I was like, oh, I'm really keen on the learning part. The diving part, I'm good. I'll skip that. But they were like, no, you have to do it in order to get the.
Well, you have to be in physical connection. And that's like sort of the bigger story of this whole thing, right? Like if you can actually be in the same space, you realize that you're sharing our world. And otherwise it's just us looking down on them, right? Whatever the disease is.
Oh, 100%. Like we are animals at the end of the day, and we are not above any animal. We are the same. We are equal. And the more I'm in nature and the more I share the water and just a wildlife in general, the more I just realize like how we're so similar and alike in some ways. And I always joke that I actually find sharks a lot easier to read than humans. Like they very much tell you just by a simple like the pectoral fins, which is their fins, either side of their body. When they go down, they're not happy. They would like you to leave. If they start bobbing their head or blinking, it could also show you that they're hungry and that like they're checking you out for food. And so like I feel like when I share the water with sharks, I find it very easy to just be like, yeah, that's a chill shark. I'll swim with it, or they want to be with me, or that they're not wanting.
Wow.
Yeah, and I feel like I love animal behavior, and I feel like if you're going to share the space with animals, you need to learn their language. Like every animal has their own language, and
so important, and their energy, right? Like, and this is all about like I do a lot of studying, coaching around positive and negative energy that we ripple, and if we pay attention to each other's energy, our own, and what we're sending out, and other people's energy as they are in that moment, the connection at that time and the relationship is completely different. It's much more respectful. It's much more in tune, right? So like I hadn't heard this before. This is such a beautiful story that like, if you're paying attention, and it's kind of like people can, I would imagine, associate this with their pets, right? Like they pay enough attention to their dog to know when there's something that they want and like what's going on. And are they hungry? Are they cranky, or they want to play, whatever it is. Like we need to do the same thing and have the same honor for every species, that they are communicating and we just don't know how to speak their language. But if we pay a lot of attention, like you're speaking shark language, at least a little bit of it. How awesome is that?
Yeah, a little bit. But I think it's just like spending time in the water with these creatures, and not just with sharks, but with any animal.
Yeah.
Every animal on this planet has a personality. I would even go as far to say bugs, ants, butterflies.
Oh, absolutely.
The little creatures, they also have, but if you spend enough time, they would have a different personality and you would understand them. And I always find like with, if I dive with a new shark species, this is I feel like a rogue thing to say, but I do believe that sharks kind of remind me of dog breeds. And like each shark kind of is like similar to a different, like a dog breed. Like some are kind of like the pit bull terriers, and some are like the Labradors, and some are like the Great Danes, and some are like the Chihuahuas, and like they just have different personalities. And like some sharks are more aggressive than others. Like the bull shark is just a naturally more aggressive shark, kind of just like you maybe get a little terrier or something, they're a little bit more feisty. It's the same thing. And it's the same with dog behavior. You can like, it's not rocket science. It's science. You can see when a dog does not want to be pet, and if you can pet it, they might bite you. It's going to happen, and it's the same with sharks and any other creature. And I love what you said about energy, and I feel like even in the water, if you're calm, something about diving, especially we'll talk about sharks in this situation. When you're diving with sharks, it's really important to stay calm, and it's sort of about your heart rate. So sharks are which is
incredible, right? Like let's recognize the sixth, seventh, and eighth, whatever senses of sharks, that they actually know how fast your heart is beating. So go ahead, because this is just, I love this. So go ahead.
Yeah, so it's so important. Like if you're excited, like it's hard because I get excited, but most of the time when I'm in the water with sharks, like some of the most calming experiences I've ever had in the water is with a shark. And I don't know whether it's something to do with this overwhelming sense of, I don't know, like life is out of my hands kind of thing. Like I'm in this presence of this incredible apex predator. If they wanted to, they could. They're deciding not to. And I feel like in that moment, you've got to be incredibly mindful. I'm very much I very much don't agree with touching wildlife. You can redirect sharks sometimes if they're getting a little bit too close.
Right. You're supposed to hit their nose, right? Like
you sort of point it downwards. And I've done it a few times, but I feel like you should only do that if it's very, very necessary. But keeping like a good little bit of distance. But yeah, just sharks are amazing. And this is something that when this first ever shark encounter I've had with the thresher shark, that day I had really blocked sinuses, so I couldn't dive, and the cleaning station's at 30 meters, so quite far down, and I just couldn't do it. And I remember getting in the water, but I very much like go. I have like a very strong gut feeling, and very much like, I don't know. My partner always thinks I'm a little bit of a witch, like I always seem to predict the future. But I remember that day I was
never say never. Like we make assumptions that we know that what our sixth and seventh and eighth senses are. Like, no reason to say you can't. Like, why not assume?
And at that day, I remember I just had this really strong feeling that I needed to be in the water. And I remember going down. I remember that the dive master I was with was like, we're not really, like, because you really can't dive today. Like, we should really call it quits. And I was like, nope, we're going in. So I remember we went in and I was stuck at 5 meters for like 10 minutes. I just couldn't equalize, which is an annoying thing that happens sometimes.
But you were still under there.
I was still under there. But I remember because I was just looking into the dive master's eyes. I was still quite new to diving, so I think I still was a little bit nervous. And I remember he was holding on to me and he was doing like, we're going to breathe slowly, because I was just trying to equalize. But because I was suddenly incredibly calm, very little bubbles. This is the thing with sharks. They don't like a lot of bubbles as well. They're scaredy cats, most of them. And so little bubbles. And I remember at the corner of my eye, just seeing this flash of silver. And the dive master was like, "Woo!" And then he pointed, and then I saw this thresher shark. She came so close, I could have reached out and touched her. That's how close she got. And I remember just looking at literally the eyes that were like this big. And I just remember it was my first ever time, like, I guess, having a connection. I wouldn't, like, at the end of the day, it's a shark. I don't want to say I had a spiritual connection, but I had, like, on a personal level, I had this with the shark, and it was my first time looking into the eyes of a shark, and I realized that she had come she was out of curiosity, this intelligence to come check us out. We are not food. They eat tiny little sardines. Like, we're not food at all. And also they don't come up to 5 meters. They're deep sea sharks. So it was a very bizarre, like, why is it so shallow? And so she circled us for like 30, 60 seconds, and then she swam off, and their tails are so long, when they swim away, it kind of looks like a snake. It's so beautiful. And I remember I was like, cool, we can end the dive, see my shark.
Yeah, right. I'm done. That was why I'm here. Yeah.
And I remember just like ending that dive, and it completely changed my life. I was like, oh my God, I just shared the water with this huge shark who was intelligent, inquisitive, beautiful. I felt so calm, and it kind of just completely changed the game for me. And then after that, I was like, these are misunderstood creatures. I completely perceived them wrong. And then it kind of, I guess that was the spark. I think every journey, there's that little like ignition, and that for me was the ignition. So now I'm completely obsessed and have dived with massive 6-meter tiger sharks solo, and done some really awesome stuff. Had some really amazing experiences with sharks here in the UK. And I'm a massive advocate for trying to get people to see them in a different light, in a different perspective. Yeah. They're so misunderstood. And at the end of the day, we need sharks in our oceans to balance the ecosystem. Every second breath we take comes from the ocean, and we need sharks to keep our oceans healthy. So it's when I say protect sharks, I'm really saying we're protecting ourselves. They are so important for life on this planet. And I don't think a lot of people know that.
No, I don't think a lot of people believe that at all, that sharks are the enemy, because they've been made the enemy, right? I mean, before Jaws, but Jaws really damaged even those who didn't think about sharks to just hate sharks. And we need to redefine. And it's so interesting, like the 200 Shark Project that you're doing. My other big interview, or one of my other big interviews around sharks for this whole Shark Week season, is with David Ebert, who's the rare shark guy. He, is in the same wavelength as you, that we need to bring attention to sharks, and we need to save the species that we don't know about, because just because we don't know about them doesn't mean that they aren't incredibly important to the ecosystems that are keeping our oceans healthy or fighting to keep our oceans healthy, right? And the 200 sharks, it seems like only a handful of them are even scary if you're in a hyper anxious mood when you're under there with them. Like the number that I only got to like maybe 10 or 15 of them that you've been exploring and that you're sharing. But like, most or all of them were just kind, gentle, doing their own thing, not in any way interested in us. So sharks in general aren't interested in us. We're just in their way, in their space. And that's the only reason they would ever interact, right? What is there like something like 67, I don't remember the word, not intentional, but something like intentional, unprovoked shark attacks in each year, right? Like it's incredible. The numbers are insignificant, like literally infantile.
More likely to die from a falling coconut or a cow. Actually, dogs kill more sharks. Dogs kill more than sharks every year as well. And we love dogs. It's just because I have this sort of like little funny quote that I say, like, if sharks had eyebrows, would you care? Because, with dogs and with mammals, they have these moving bits of muscle above the eye that allow them to show some type of emotion. When it comes to fish, they don't have that, they just look like there's just no emotion whatsoever. So they could be in intense pain or intense happiness. And you have absolutely no idea.
Only because we don't speak their language yet, maybe, right? Like, exactly. And you said that you're actually starting to, like, you can see where the fins are and whether they're moving at you or moving away from you or swimming around you, like all of it is part of their language, right? We just don't speak it.
Exactly. And it's just, we need to learn. I mean, even like you can learn the body languages of certain sharks, but even then we'll never fully know their language and how they communicate. And it's so important for us to, I don't know, like there was a really good campaign by WWF that I loved, and they put like on tunas, like masks of like fluffy creatures. And that's what I feel like if they were these fluffy, cute creatures, right. Yeah. Maybe we would care. If they were the panda, if they were the tiger, maybe we would care about them. But no, it's this scary thing that lives underwater, this place that, I was once incredibly scared of. It's out of sight, out of mind. We don't spend our time underwater, obviously, because we need to breathe. We spend our time on land. And so it is this like very much in the distance. Yeah. And I know that like a lot of people are not going to be doing what I do, which is getting yourself underwater. And so as the storyteller, it's like, how can I then bring the ocean to the screens on your phone or your living room or whatever it is without getting your feet wet, so you can have that emotional connection. And with the 200 Sharks project, it's sort of like been an ongoing project for quite a few years, but last year I sort of made a bit of a turn with it, and I thought, let's turn this into a social media campaign, as everyone's on social media and it's a beautiful place to connect. And, people, I don't know how many hours people waste of their phone. So why not?
I didn't think it was a waste, though. I have to tell you, like, I spent a couple hours like digging through each of these stories, and it was so not a waste. So the time we waste is questionable whether we're wasting it. So,
well, I was more thinking like, if people are already on their
doom
phone,
scrolling,
bring that education, that inspiration. Yeah. So it's not
totally. Yeah, but, spend your time wisely. Go on to Francesca's page instead.
Thank you. But so with the 200 Sharks project, so as I said earlier, 100 million sharks are killed every year for things like their fins, their meat, their skin, their oil, their teeth, that type of stuff. Which is horrendous, but that kind of roughly is about 11,000 every hour, which is about 200 every minute. 100 million is an unfathomable amount, to even, no one can envision that. Even 11,000 is a huge amount. 200 felt manageable, felt like this thing that you could picture, you could see. Yeah. And so,
and a minute is a sort of a time frame that you can grasp.
Yes, exactly. It's like it's that, all of that. And so, I wanted to use my creative skills to communicate and highlight and shine a spotlight on lots of different types of chondrichthyes, which is sharks, ray skates, and chromeras. The reason why I've called it 200 sharks just because it has a bit more of a ring than 200 chondrichthyes. What people chondrichthy. It's just a scientific term for a sort of group of animals.
They're all cartilage based, right? That are not bony.
They're all yes. So they're all kind of at the same sort of family tree, and they're just amazing. Like, I mean, even people don't really understand that a shark and a ray are related. that raise kind of like a flattened shark. And so, yeah, I'm creating these pieces of digital art. I originally started with these big paintings, but it was taking me like 3 months to do a painting. And my partner joked, he's like, this is going to take the rest of your life. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't have that time. And then I was thinking, you know, sharks don't have that time. And so I switched to digital illustration so I can create an illustration in a couple of days. And I was like, okay, this feels a lot more like I'm actually creating an impact. So I create this sort of digital illustration, and it's that creature within their environment. And I try and highlight like a behavior, food, environment, something about that creature. And something I really love about sort of studying and learning about these this family of animals is I love learning about their body behavior, their languages, their relationships with other creatures, their symbiotic relationships that happen underwater, which I just find fascinating.
Crazy, right? Awesome.
Just like the cleaning station, you know, for example, I've seen this in real life, scalloped hammerheads. They will flash their body, their chest to the cleaning station, and you kind of get this really big flash of silver. And then suddenly out of nowhere, all of these fish come and surround the shark. So the sharks literally communicated to the fish, I'm ready to be cleaned. And then it'll do a little wiggle when it doesn't, like, it's like, I'm done, you can stop cleaning me now. And then the fish know, they're like, okay, we're done. And then they'll go, and there'll always be like that one that takes a little bit more of a bite. And then the shark's like, yeah, go away. But
it's amazing.
It's amazing.
An amazing story. Yeah,
it's amazing. And so I'm creating sort of an illustration, a fact file online, and then social media videos. So I do like a fact file. I've tried to make it fun and interesting and make it educational
and artistic. So you've got, you know, there's a real joy in the art of what you've created because you're showing how you create the art itself and the movement of the species. Like it's a really beautiful short videos that they're just magnificent. So go to Instagram, I think, or to Francesca's website and explore this world of 200 sharks plus all the other stuff. And by the way, I have to tout, and I'm so excited to order the shop that you've made with your art. Like there's art, you know, that you can put on the wall and all that, but there's this awesome whole spread of swimwear that has, and we have to talk about whale sharks, but like there's all this, I gotta wear whale shark clothes and you call them, they call them rash guards, but I call them sun protection shirts and all that. So anyway, go to FrancescaPageArt.com, I think is your website.
Thank you. I mean, like back in COVID, I had a vision of I want to wear my art. And so, you know, I had a bit of time on my hands like we all did in COVID. So that's where I started sort of like my brand and put my work on like freediving fins and swimwear and t-shirts and stuff. And it's
the fins are so beautiful.
Thank
like
you.
The picture of you with like the big fins that are moving like the ocean. Oh my God, it's beautiful. Anyway.
Thank you. Yeah, I always get complimented when I'm out, which is lovely. I'm always like, yeah, I did it. But thank you. I appreciate that.
So I have to switch over I have to like take you to whale sharks because they seem to be a big part of both the 200 and just something. And if I have it right, you spent a season in Ningaloo Reef in Western Australia, which is one of the places that the whale sharks go for these feeding frenzies and that they know to go to. And David Ebert talked a little bit about whale sharks, and I decided this was my favorite shark. It is so not scary. It is ridiculous, even though it is the largest fish in the sea. Just think about that. Like it is the largest non-mammal in the sea. And I think on land also, like the largest one in existence, the non-mammal in existence. And it is the most unfear-oriented person. Like it is a filter feeder. It's eating tiny little things. It is not eating you.
Yeah, I mean, the smallest.
Beautiful.
Smallest creature.
So beautiful. So tell us.
So I worked the season on the Ningaloo. I unfortunately did not see a whale shark.
No.
I know.
Because it wasn't that the right time of year when they came?
It was the right time of year, but due to climate change, were like something that I guess happens every year now. There was something that happened with the water. I think it was too warm. I think that was what happened. And so they didn't come. So where I was in Coral Bay. So Exmouth is up the coast, and there was a huge amount of whale sharks there because there was something was weird with the current.
Yeah.
So there was loads there, but it was none where I was, but I was
Wow.
working with manta rays, so I was meant to be on the
Wow.
whale shark boats. But I was gutted, but I was like, you know what, I still get to see manta rays every day.
Manta rays are pretty darn awesome, and they're
They're
enormous
amazing.
too.
They have one of the biggest brain to body ratios in the ocean. They
Wow.
are highly intelligent, and I think I was privileged enough to share
Mm.
the water with manta rays pretty much every day. Give or take, some days nature just,
Wow.
doesn't want
Yeah.
to provide, but most days with manta rays, and I was able to experience those resident manta rays. So what we're talking
Wow.
about personality is when you sort of dive with these creatures every day, and you get to know, oh, it's Spatty or it's whoever it is today, and
Yeah,
you
if
get
you name them, they become
yeah,
individuals with sentience and personality and communicate.
exactly. Yeah, and like it was just just an amazing experience. Like one of like the highlights of being there is when the coral spawned. It smells terrible, by the way, when the coral spawned.
Wow.
It's beautiful. It's this beautiful pink, like
Wow.
how would you describe it? Like layer that's on the water, but it smells like rotting fish. So
Wow.
it's
You
a
know what?
very
I know what corresponding, but can you, and I know why the world sharks go there together, but can you just give us a quick explanation of like is going, because it's another incredibly magical moment that happens in the oceans that you, most people have never, and I've never had it have a chance to interact with personally. So it's just sort of this far off story, even if you know the story. So tell us, what the story is with it and what it's like to be part of that story.
Yeah, so every year the coral spawns, which is like that they make babies, and you get male and female, and they release their eggs, and they kind of spread with the ocean currents, and hopefully the egg will drop down onto a piece of sediment or rock and produce a little baby coral, which is amazing. And it happens, I can't remember whether it's like 3 days before or 3 days after a full moon or something, but it happens in a very short, tiny window. I missed it. But I feel like you have to be there like every hour of the day to try and capture it. But one day, that's one of my like goals, is I would love to experience a coral spawning event. And so for about a week afterwards, sort of the ocean is littered with this bright pink, like all it looks like porcelain balls, and it smells really bad. It smells of rotting fish, and you've got to make sure you wear your earplugs because you can get really bad ear infections if it goes in. But this causes a lot of life to happen. So from the coral spawning, obviously a lot of it gets eaten, which is amazing for the ecosystem. And then you'll get like the crab spawning. So it kind of like sort of ignites this whole different, like this explosion of life and birth at the same time. And the manta rays come to not eat the coral spawns, they eat the creatures that eat the coral spawn. Makes sense. It's always like a week afterwards, and then they'll get this abundance of manta rays. And I remember it was about a week or so after the coral spawning event, and we were on the outer reef. So the Ningaloo, if people don't know, it's this incredible stretch of coastline and coral reef. It's like the Great Barrier Reef, but on the other side of Australia. And you have like an inner and outer reef. I prefer the outer reef just because I love like deep blue, wild ocean. And when you get to the outer reef, like you just never know what you're going to see. You could see a bait ball, you could see tiger sharks, you could see whatever it is.
There's more room, so it's bigger stuff, right? It's deep ocean,
bigger, crazier stuff, and there's just more action, and I love the adrenaline of it. And I remember we went out there, and there must have been like 50 manta rays, all barrel rolling and feeding, and just having the time of their life. And I was working as a photographer, and so the privilege of being a photographer on the Ningaloo is that you're always the first and last out of the water, which for me is like everything because I'm always the last out of the water. So you get in, and you have to find the manta ray. Usually the skipper will tell you roughly where the manta is. You get in, you hopefully find the manta. Sometimes it's pretty hard to find the manta, especially because...
Which is kind of crazy because they're so big, but the ocean's pretty darn big, right?
They're pretty big, and they're very fast. They're much faster than you can ever swim. So, and then you find the manta ray.
Well, they flap those enormous wings, right? So that they can move really fast.
They're just incredible. And I think... I was working on a tourist boat, so then you'd get a group of like 6 come in, and then they would have their little experience with the mantas, and they'll go back on the boat. But I would always stay in the water, and like some of the most incredible experiences I had, and I feel privileged to say this, is when it was one-on-one, so it was just me in the water. Wow. And when I had that, it was amazing kind of experiencing that. So, just be me with said manta ray. And I remember having like eye contact with a few mantas, and they would come up to me, and they would actively seek they're curious. They want to play with me, or they want to do something. I don't know. And like, it's a really cool experience. And so I'd have these amazing moments of one-on-one, very close interactions. Always try to be really mindful and respectful of their space. If they don't want to be interacted with, I'm very, very good with ending that dive. And then, you get the guests jump in, and what does the manta do? It dives down to 10, 20 meters. And you do see the manta still if the visibility is good. And then the guests get back on the boat, and guess what? The manta ray comes back up again. And it's something that I experienced, because I would take photos and the guests would see the photos and be like, wow, you got so close. And I'm like, yeah, I feel very lucky.
It's really thought-provoking, right? Like, just about trust, right? And about sharing, like, there's this depth of trust that is needed between species. So, I mean, I'm sure manta rays have a fear of a certain species, probably great whites and orcas who might eat them. And otherwise, it's about who's in power and who they've had a positive experience with or a scary experience with. And there's this big brain, right, that's processing the same kind of stuff we are. What are we afraid of? Who's behaving in a certain way? What are they communicating? And when the guests left that energy and took it out, the stress and the movement and the quick stuff and the just discomfort of where they were, right? And left you in there with this calm, just trust, changed everything for them. And they knew you. Like, just to put that whole story together, because it sounds like it happened over and over again, right? You're taking all these guests out on these boats, and every day you're having this experience that is completely different from them, because you're coming in with a completely different mindset.
Yeah, I feel like it's the connection and that energy as well. I mean, I've also jumped in the water, and I'll say this now, but at the time I guess I lied and said there was no manta ray. But I remember jumping in the water once and seeing this baby manta, this juvenile manta ray, and the way it was not very good visibility. It was quite bad viz. So when it was bad viz, we'd always call it the manta shadow, because you see this like black blob. But I remember seeing this juvenile, and the way it was behaving, it was very skittish, and it kept showing me its belly. So it was trying to look at me and check me out and size me up and be like, what? And I had this feeling, I was like, I feel like I potentially might be the first human it's ever experienced, because it was very young. Its spots hadn't really been recorded on the database before. And I took, in that moment, I went against, I guess, what probably the skipper wanted and the boat wanted. And I said, I didn't see the manta ray, just because in that moment, I just was like, I don't want this manta ray to have a bad experience,
Wow.
Guests jump in the water and it's all panic and splashing, it could potentially scare that manta ray off. And I could just also tell it barely interacted with me, so therefore it's going to swim away, and it's a waste of the guests' time. We might as well go try find another one that's a bit more interactive. I'm really passionate about respectful interactions with wildlife in general, and very much like, I will happily not take any photos and put my camera down if I feel that this animal is having a bad experience, does not want its photo taken. Just like humans, some humans don't want their photo taken, don't take their photo. It's the same with animals. I feel like I feel social media is littered with videos and images of certain types of marine creatures. And I feel like you can tell in that image, just when you have that sort of experience, the animal potentially didn't want their photo taken. And I don't know, for me, I'm very like hot on that. And I'm very happy to call people out, especially in the water, if they're mistreating, like, for example, a turtle is quite an easy one. If they show you their shell, that's a sign that they're very distressed and they really don't want you to be around. It's something that they do to tiger sharks and other sharks. So they'll make themselves look bigger, so then this tiger shark doesn't feel like they can take a chomp, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if they
I didn't know that, and that's so important. Thank you.
So important. If they show you your shell, please leave them alone. If you distress an animal, for example, whale sharks, there's like in the Maldives, there's records of people jumping in the water with a whale shark. It's spooking that whale shark, and that whale shark's come up to get sunlight, to feed, and they dive down to depths and sometimes stay at depths for a few days, which means they get malnourished. And yeah, basically not understanding the body, like the language, I guess. And this is why it's really important to educate people, because, there is naivety. I am sure in the past have gone
Sure.
into the water naive of potential body and languages that have been presented at me. So it's important to educate people. So then hopefully people can have amazing interactions with marine life, but also a respectful one. And it's amazing if you're respectful to said creature, they are respectful back. And honestly, when you're in the water and they decide to interact with you, that is such an incredible experience.
Yeah, you've given them this sense of connection that they want to explore. So in terms of whale sharks, I'm actually really curious because I was reading and watching some stuff about the trackers that are now on many whale sharks because they move so slowly and they're so accessible when they're on the coastlines looking for the food, although they go spend most of their time deep in the ocean. Been discovered that they do these up and down dives to save on energy and move through the pelagic zone so that they can find the food at the most efficient way. And the idea of staying, and I didn't see anything about staying down for that long. And it's so interesting. So they were able to track that when a whale shark was afraid, it stayed down longer. That's so important. Like we need that kind of data point, right?
100%. I feel like, for the sake of a selfie with that shark, and that's not to say that everyone is doing that, but I do see more and more, people trying to get that photo for social media. And I feel like you have to put the respect of the creature above any type of photo or video. I mean, that's just my ethics and morals. But it's so important, and that's where science can play such a huge role in communicating that type of language, right? That we're talking about, and knowing that this particular whale shark did do that. That's something that is so super important for us to know, and then hopefully we can educate others and allow people to understand that maybe the way we approach these types of creatures in a more meaningful, mindful, calm way, and actually sometimes not getting in the water with such a creature, even though you've paid for that boat excursion to dive with said creature. If we don't, there's been times where I've been on a boat and the animals in the water and I'm like, let's get in. And then, they're like, oh yeah, body language doesn't look good. I think we'll leave this one. I'm like, cool, let's leave it. Because actually at the end of the day, it's not going to be fun for the creature. It could put the creature at harm. It could put us at harm, especially if you're with apex predators. Fortunately, if a shark gets annoyed, a nibble is half a leg. So, you've got to be respectful.
Yeah, I love the story though, like just in connecting to what you were just saying, to the baby ray, the baby manta, that you wanted this baby to have a positive experience with humans. You then, went on to, well, maybe other things were in play, but like, I am going to grab onto that story and just embrace that you wanted this connection. And because you had a tough connection, like when you were a child, so like one bad moment can set you off on, and the same with my son, like one bad moment can change everything about the fear in your brain, right? And build into this bigger story and this bigger fear, and to like create this beautiful dynamic with this baby that nobody had met before. And for you to offer this like beautiful interaction about humans as a positive part of their world is just so spectacular. Okay, so I have learned so much from you in just the short time I've been studying you and your work. And there's a few things that I learned that I wish I'd figured out before I wrote my episode about whale sharks and recorded it. So there's a couple of things I got to ask you so have you swum with whale sharks?
Yes.
Just not it. Okay. So because you've done this incredible artwork around them, I need to hear about the teeth in the eyes, because that's the first time I've heard of that. Tell me about this is so cool. Like,
I see this project because with each creature, I do research and try and like learn more facts about it. And I'm learning, and I'm like someone who's like a shark nerd.
Yeah.
And I'm learning more facts. I'm like, well, if I didn't know, then no one's gonna know this one. But yeah, they've got teeth in their eyeballs. And I think it's something to do with protection. So if they were to get attacked by another shark, that's, hopefully it can protect their eyes. Because sharks,
they don't really have any other protection, right? Like they don't.
They don't. Whale sharks, I love them, but they also have the smallest brain in the body in the ocean.
So okay, but they have the biggest body, so they still don't have the smallest brain.
But like, I guess they're kind of like a golden retriever. Everyone loves them, but sometimes they're not the smartest dog in the room. but we all love them. And yeah, that's how I kind of imagine a whale shark. They are beautiful though. They are just incredible. And yeah, sharks have I've forgotten I can't say it. I always pronounce it wrong, but they're covered in basically the skin is covered in shark's teeth, like tiny little shark's teeth. I can't
dendrites or dentrials.
I always pronounce it wrong. And I'll know that someone will listen and hate me for it.
Oh, totally. Me too. Yeah.
So, but it's amazing, their skin. I mean, people used to use shark skin as sandpaper because it's so rough.
But only in one direction, which is so interesting, right? Because their teeth, they're shaped. Yeah.
Yeah, they have very, very tough skin. And actually, female sharks have thicker skin than male sharks, which I kind of love. But also, it's to do with when they mate. Mating in shark world is very vicious. It involves a lot of biting. So a male will bite onto one of her fins. And sometimes there's quite a few sharks trying to do it at the same time. So female sharks have evolved to have a lot thicker skin, literally because they need to have a thicker skin to endure that mating, which is kind of crazy, but amazing at the same time.
So my whole episode, this is so interesting because my whole episode about whale sharks that is going to come out next week is about the resilience of their thick skin. And I actually did not know that about why they have thick skin. Also, they have other reasons that they have thick skin. And we use that metaphor of thick skin, which has sort of some positive and some negative connotations that, like, you know, we don't let anything bother us, but should we actually be learning from some of what, and, you know, the fact that some stuff does penetrate that 4-inch thick skin, which is the thickest skin, largest fish, thickest skin. Like, this is a really cool animal, right? That the thick skin has so many layers to it of what purpose it serves. And the fact that the females have thicker skin than the males, really a statement that we can connect to as humans, right? In terms of that metaphor, like what women go through versus, not that men don't have challenges and reasons to have to stand up to, and have thick skin, but there's just so much fun that we could play with around the thick skin of a female, protecting themselves from the males and all that.
Yeah, this is something that when I learned that fact, I had the same kind of thoughts.
It's pretty wild. I mean, interestingly, the whale shark has all the teeth that are in the whale shark's mouth are vestigial. Like there's a history of millions and millions of years to the adaptations that the whale shark has undergone. And it's so interesting because I don't think, unless you would be the one to know, do you know why or how their life used to be, that it used to have teeth that served a different purpose? Or maybe they serve a purpose and we just don't know.
Actually, I don't know. I'd have to get back to you on that one. That's something I'm going to research. I mean, the evolution.
Of course you are.
It's amazing. They've been around on our planet for like 450 million years. You know, they are older than dinosaurs. They were older than trees. You know, sharks are incredible. So when you experience a shark in the ocean, you are experiencing a living, breathing dinosaur and evolutionary masterpiece. You know, they've spent millions of years to become the ultimate apex predator, or the ultimate sort of top of the food chain in the ocean. And so when you experience, like, for example, that you have like a wobbegong, which they have these, I don't know if you know what wobbegong is, but they're called carpet sharks. And they literally have camo, like sand camo, I guess. They're really incredible.
They hang out in the sand, like nurse sharks.
They do. Yeah. And they have like, so you get lots of different types, but like the tasseled wobbegong, they look like they have like a little beard. And what they do is they use their tail and they flip it behind them and they kind of let it sway in the ocean to mimic another fish.
Wow.
And they'll just sit there for hours, just sitting there being patient and waiting until a particular fish that they want to eat comes along, because then they hide under coral and under rocks and stuff. So they try and make it feel like a safe place, because like there's another fish there. So the other fish might be like, oh, okay, there's another fish there. I'll go into the crevice, which is a safe place for me to be. I'm not going to get eaten.
Not so much. It's a mouth of a shark.
And then, you know, this wobbegong, they'll go up and they'll suck their prey into their mouth. And it's just like, whoa, it did that. That's a really amazing, incredible adaptation that's happened. And I mean, for me, I'm in awe every time I see not just sharks, but anything in the ocean, anything in wildlife. I'm like, wow, Mother Nature did that. Like, you know, no one told anyone to do that. And you just went and created this incredible piece of art, this incredible piece of engineering. You know, I do like nature is,
and it keeps adapting. Like
Yes.
it learns and it changes. And some of these adaptations are happening really fast, like to deal with changing temperatures of water and what they eat. Like, polar bears are ineffectively eating fruit from trees because they're starving, because they can't get the sea ice. There's some that are super rapid adaptations, and there are some that have taken millions of years to get, a little bit better and a little better and a little better. It's really incredible.
This is also like the problem that's happening with this group of animals, is that we are fishing them to extinction. We've wiped out 90% of all sharks on this planet already, only in the space of like 100 years. And it's not getting any better, unfortunately, which I do feel like most of the time I talk to an echo chamber, and I'm always wondering, like, how can I get outside of that echo chamber? And a lot of my friends, they love sharks in the ocean. So, I interact with these people, and now and again, I get out of that bubble. And, I talk to people and they're like, oh, but aren't you scared? Or what's bycatch, for example? And what's this? And then I go, oh my God, like my brother the other day, I created a piece of art about bycatch, and I showed
it's incredible. That's the first piece of art I saw that connected me. That picture of that seal, the baby seal, and the face is just,
it's the emotion. I'm glad that's in a way the emotion that evokes.
Yeah.
But he was like, what's bycatch? And I was like, what the hell? You're my brother. Like,
I know, right? Like, how am I not communicating this well enough? Like, how are you not paying attention?
Well, maybe I'm a broken record, and I should probably talk about other stuff than bycatch. But
okay, so if your brother didn't know what bycatch is, it seems like we need to tell people what bycatch is. Okay, and on the show notes, we will definitely have that piece of art with the bycatch and the seal and the whale shark and all the rest in it. But tell us about bycatch and why it matters, because it's staggeringly important.
Oh, bycatch is, if there's fishing, there's bycatch, even if it's sustainable fishing. And that's not me saying anything bad towards the local fishermen, but unfortunately, it's just something that happens. So it's when you unintentionally catch another species of fish outside of the targeted fish that you are, trying to fish. And unfortunately, it happens every single day, and it causes a lot of sharks and rays and turtles and lots of different types of marine creatures to be caught in its wake. A project that I worked on a year and a half ago that kind of changed the game for me. I've been working with bycatch for quite a few years, but I think being in the water and experiencing it quite literally in your face was something that very much was a light bulb moment in my brain. I worked with an NGO in northern Sumatra called Kebersamaan Untuk Lautan, which is Indonesian for Togetherness for the Ocean.
That was impressive. Okay, how many languages? How much speak?
I just speak a little bit of Bahasa and crazy. So they work with local fishers in this area in northern Sumatra, where they are not catching, they're not targeting sharks, but unfortunately they catch a large amount of critically endangered sharks and rays, and they'll go sell them in the market because they've got to make a living. And so they work with the local fishermen, and this NGO is teaching them and paying them to release critically endangered sharks and rays. So they're teaching them to tag them and then release them, but they have to do the little GoPro thing in order to receive that compensation. So it's a really amazing initiative of collaboration over competition, working with science, working with local fishers. But I spent a few weeks with them, which was an amazing experience, working with the fishers, going out on the boats, experiencing them hauling in hundreds of meters of gill nets. And what a gill net is, it's just a long fishing net that goes on for hundreds and hundreds of meters.
Yeah, I mean, bottom trawling is now a big topic of conversation for ocean conservationists. And that's like sort of the largest scheme in the scheme of things, right? Like, the amount of bycatch that you're taking. I mean, actually, I've heard some hard percentages. Like what you're actually looking for is what percentage of what you're actually getting in that net?
Oh, it's pretty much like out of 10 creatures, one of them will be the targeted, the rest will be bycatch, which is just an outrageous amount. And it's just like, so the gill nets lie at the bottom of the sea floor. I mean, this is very, very small scale, and it's actually classed as sustainable fishing, which is who these fishers are. It's one or two men on a boat, very small boat, and every day they're hauling the catch, and they're also complaining because they're saying, "Hey, we're not catching the that we want. We keep catching the other creatures, but we don't want them. We'll go sell them in the market, but we don't want them." And in this particular area, so that's when the scientists are coming and they're working with the fishes and realizing that this is a shark and ray nursery that they had no idea, because all of the creatures all the sharks and rays that they're catching are juveniles and babies. So one of the creatures that they capture is a smooth-nosed wedgefish. You probably have never heard of it, because it's literally about to go extinct, and like no one's ever really seen it as a diver. Lots of people, you see them in markets and in nets, but to see it actually swimming in its natural habitat,
it's only seen as bycatch. It's not seen
pretty much. Like I don't really know where, like I don't know that many other people have seen a smooth-nosed wedgefish not in a net, but there was one particular day and we were in the water with my partner's a filmmaker, so I work with him a lot, and so he was videoing it, I was capturing it with photography, and they captured this smooth-nosed wedgefish. It was just an amazing moment where this kind of, I felt like stars aligned, the fish kind of, it moved in a way and it presented, and I took this photo that went on to win a few awards and also raise a lot of awareness about this particular creature. Yeah. And then it was kind of amazing. So the fishers took the wedgefish out of the nets, they tagged it, they logged it, and then they released it and it swam away, happy, healthy. And it was actually a decent sized wedgefish. It was still a juvenile, but it was more towards the adult size. So that was a really positive experience. But then we also experienced baby tiny tiger sharks that were unfortunately dead in the nets. Something that was positive about the wedgefish is that so some sharks and rays don't need to move to breathe. Right. Most of them need to move so they have water going over their oxygen. Whilst with some sharks and rays, they can just stay stationary and move their mouth up and down to pump that water.
Right, you can see it in their gills when their gills move as they move the water. Yeah, nurse sharks.
It's awesome, but actually, this adaptation that some of the creatures have is of benefit for if they get caught in the net. They survive a lot longer than other sharks because they can they'll survive a few days longer. So and then what they're doing. So they're working with the fishers and raising more funds so that they can change their nets to kind of like a lobster pot, which they're finding is they're not catching any bycatch anymore. They're actually more catching targeted fish. So it was a really beautiful story of how conservation can sort of work. But then it's also like this tiny little story.
Right, but we have to tell the story. Like the story has to be passed on to every other local community so they understand that there are options. And I gather in some of these communities, that where fishermen, the only path to income that they knew was fishing, and that now ecotourism is an option as well. So like come and see this nursery for ecotourist trips, to come and see the nursery for sharks and rays instead of coming in and seeing and eating fish, right?
Yeah. That's true. Actually, this is something that Holly, who's sort of runs it in Indonesia, she's now exploring ecotourism and how that can work. In Northern Sumatra, it's not a place where tourists go. It's not a very touristy place. It's very local, raw Indonesia, which this is something I love about it over there. But she's looking and exploring, like, how can we get people to, like, it's not going to be a luxurious tourism, but like, how can we get like the more adventurous people to come on these boats with these fishers and experience the beautiful wildlife that's on our doorstep. So we're going out, my partner and I are going back to Indonesia this August. We're going out for another shoot, but then on our way back, we thought, let's stop by Northern Sumatra and go back out with the fishers and see if we can see what we can find. Also, it sounds really weird, but maybe I've just got too hard into shark conservation, but I just want to go back to the fishing markets because I find it really interesting to see what's being caught.
I mean, that's what David Ebert said. He said he finds the rare sharks in the market, and the locals know what they have. If you describe or show a picture or a drawing of a rare shark, that's where you're going to find it. You're not going to find it in the ocean looking for it because there's so few of them left.
Yeah, it's really sad. Like, I think the project that I was working on was with bycatch. So the fishers are not targeting sharks, but they will sell them at the market. Hence why they're compensating the fishers, which is an amazing scheme. And they're also finding that because the fishers are getting educated and because they're tagging, they're getting
right, because they're getting out alive, so they can actually pass on the learning. Right. Yes. That's so cool, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is so beautiful about this area of Indonesia is each individual village has a Panglima Laut, which means commander of the sea. And so it's ancestral knowledge that's passed through generation, where this one person, their role is to protect their patch of ocean. So every village has a patch of ocean. And so they're actually loving working with the scientists and conservation, because they're like, this is all about what we're about, by us helping tag and release, we are protecting that patch of ocean. And they are, through the educating of the importance of sharks and rays and why we need to have them in our oceans, they're now passing that on to their children. So it's a really fantastic story, and it's amazing. But then on the flip side, going to the markets, I also experienced this particular market, and they target sharks. So fishers will go out for 3 weeks at a time, sometimes a month. It's awful. I very much do not point my finger at any fisher. This is just a job for them, and sometimes it's their only option, and they're born into it. But they
don't know that there are other options, and that's part of it, right?
Because there aren't any options as well. So it's like, how can we work in a way that allows other options to happen? Because in this area of northern Sumatra, there's fishing, there's working in palm oil or concrete, and they're all terrible for the environment.
I know. I'm actually going there in March with Daniel J. Cox, who I had interviewed about polar bears, who's a National Geographic photographer who runs tours to places that he fell in love with. And we're going to see the orangutans and also to dive, I think, in that area. So because it's not a popular area, it's off the beaten track a little bit. I don't know how rugged it's going to be, but we'll see. But like, I got to drop him a note and tell him about this conversation.
For sure. Honestly, it's such a incredible, magical place there. And because it's off the beaten track, the diving's amazing and it's wild and there's so much life around. I'm hoping maybe go see the orangutans this year. We'll see if we've got time. It's such a cool place. But yeah, it was interesting on the flip side, going to the markets and seeing, I'll never forget what they don't speak Bahasa there. They speak slightly different version of Indonesian, which we didn't know. My partner and I didn't know. So we turn up and we're like, oh, wow, we have no communication. So I'm like trying to use like Google Translate to try and communicate. But there was very broken English. So we had some funny conversations, and I'll never forget, in the morning, we just spent the morning on the boat under gill nets, and I saw the wedge fish, and it was very emotional, but also happy. There was like all the emotions. And then we get back in the car and Ilhan, our sort of guide for our time there, was like, do you want to go see a shark mountain? And I was like, what is a shark mountain? And I was like, go on, fine, why not? I have no idea where you're going to take us, but why not? We'll go see a shark mountain. And so I kind of learned just to go with it. And so we were in the car for like 3 hours driving down the coast, and I had no idea where it was taking us. But I just knew it was obviously something to do with sharks. And we get out, and immediately we're presented by just shark fins drying in the sun. I was like, okay, I know where we are. Okay, I understand where we are. And it was a processing station. And as soon as you get out of the car, you get this very vivid smell of urine and rotten fish, because, fun fact, sharks urinate through their skin, which is something I only learned last year, that was an interesting fact. So this is what a dead shark smells like. It smells like urine and rotten fish. And so I was like, oh, okay, I know exactly where we are. And so we went to the market where they actually target sharks. And so that morning, a haul had just come in. So a boat had come in for 3 weeks, and it was a shark mountain. So quite literally a mountain of sharks. Lots of different sorts of tiger sharks, scalloped hammerheads, thresher shark, everything, blue sharks, everything, mako sharks. And I spent time with the fish, the guys, and they were processing. There was a processing station, so they were processing the sharks. So they were removing the skin. So I didn't know this, but there's a shark leather trade.
They said that with whale sharks specifically, with their beautiful skin, right?
Yeah, and I didn't know this. And so, they were doing a lot with the tiger sharks, obviously, because they have beautiful markings as well. So they were processing, they take the skins off, and then they'll put those skins in this horrible bloodbath where they clean them. And then I guess that will get shipped off to places like Hong Kong and Singapore, where they get processed and turned into luxury goods like purses and handbags. That's something I learned that day. I had no idea that shark leather was a thing. They take the teeth out, that can get sold, put into jewelry. Obviously, you have the shark fins. And there's different levels of grades of different fins. So, for example, the wedge fish, which is known as sort of the king fish of the sharks and rays, their dorsal fin is one of the most valuable fins in the international fin trade, because I didn't know this. So there's different grades of fins. So some sharks, for example, the thresher shark, isn't valuable at all. They're very collagenous. And apparently when they dry, they want a fin to be very flaky, almost like noodles. So some sharks, they're thicker, and so they want the thinnest. And so wedgefish are like the creme de la creme. So that's expensive.
And they're almost extinct because of it.
Yes. And so you had like this big box full of fins, and they all kind of like processed differently. And then obviously they sell the meat in the local markets, which is another form of protein and income for a lot of the people in the local area. Unfortunately, shark meat is not good for you. Yes, it's got protein, but it's also high in heavy metals because
they're eating everything out there.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it was a very interesting experience. And I thought it was very important to photograph what was happening and capture what was happening. Yeah. But I felt deep sadness for the creatures. Yeah. But, you know, I also went and had tea and coffee with the guys afterwards. And
because you can't, I mean, I had talked to my friend Ken about this.
Humans.
Who goes on all these safaris, and he was trying to express that we need compassion for the guardians, the human, like it's a whole system, and they're not doing it. They're doing it to survive. The humans are also doing it to survive in this case, you know, in these kinds of cases, and that you can't hate the people because that's, as you said, that's all they know. That might be the only way that they can survive. And now that there's techniques to catch in volume, why wouldn't they do it? Right. They don't really have an option. They need to survive. It's such a hard dynamic. So good for you.
I feel like we point, it's easy to point the finger at the bottom of the food chain or the bottom of the ladder. I'm always like, okay, I feel like maybe in order to tackle this, one, it's a multi-billion-dollar business. So yeah, it's hard to go up against a industry that makes just a vast amount of money. But it's more tackling, I guess, the consumers and educating and not pointing fingers. Because I really do believe humans are not evil. People like we're all got goodness within us, and sometimes it's just naivety or lack of education or not really understanding. But yeah, I feel like it's that educating of the consumer and making sure that people understand what they're eating or where it's coming from, and understanding that if you support shark fin soup, you are supporting this horrible...
and pangolins. I mean, there's just a long history of animals that have been just totally neglected and extracted without any concern, and the assumption that, you know, it's just like we eat chicken breast, right? I don't anymore, but you eat chicken breast because it doesn't look like your food, right? Like ground up pangolin shells or shark's fin. Like when it's turned into food that doesn't look like where it came from, we can completely be in denial that there's any other side to this story of these poor creatures that are suffering.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I just learned the other day, I'm writing an article with the Manta Trust, and I had no idea that manta ray gills. So I knew that obviously they're harvested and sometimes they're dried up and put into pills or something. But I didn't realize that they are also made into a soup, like shark fin soup. And I had no idea. And I'm like, I should have known that. But I didn't. And then it's like, hey, we need to educate people. And I just, when you think about the whole industry, I get very overwhelmed. And that's why I think like working with the local NGO, there's so much beauty that is happening. There's so many amazing conservation movements and people working in the field who are doing amazing things. And like something that I also sort of acknowledged was the fishers that I was interacting with and spending the weeks with, they don't earn a lot of money either. You know, it's really the guys that come in with the clipboards and buy said meats and fins and whatever it is, and then they go sell it on. There's the middlemen that are higher up. You know, these guys who are going out at sea for 3 weeks, risking their lives, also doing highly illegal stuff as well. They don't want to be doing this. They want to be at home with their family, but they're doing this so they can send their kids to school, that they can just provide food. And they're like making absolute pennies when I see like how much money these guys are making.
We treat other humans just as poorly as we treat other species in our world.
We need to have so much more empathy for not just humans, but also creatures. I do believe that when it's not just a shark conservation thing, but with wildlife conservation in general, it's a humanitarian issue. And it's very much having that empathy, having that compassion.
Everyone in the system, like we need to focus on the whole system, not just data points of the system that we judge and we make tiny changes in. Like we need to understand why the whole thing is working the way it is.
So many nuances. It's not black and white. It's multicolored, and you can't point fingers. And that's something that I'm learning. It's holding that compassion. It's
okay. So I have taken so much of your time. You're so generous, and I could go on with this for hours, but I do just want to ask you to share some of the stuff that you're doing and some of the, like, even just some of the things like to bring attention, now that we're going to try and bring more attention, you and I are storytellers, to the Girls Who Click and to the Vital Impacts Environmental Photography Mentorship, which are two things I know that you've promoted that you're involved in. And then what else are you working on? Because there's just, it seems like every day you're probably starting some new amazing adventure and beautiful thing that you're doing. So
thank you. I overwhelmed myself. I just love art. I think it's taken me quite a long time in my career to get to that point where I'm a visual artist, because I just love communicating the world through art, and there's so many different mediums that I like to dip my toe into. But yeah, the Girls at Click, which is an amazing program I've been fortunate to be a part of for 2 years. It's this amazing group of wildlife photographers and filmmakers from around the world, under 30. And yeah, I just love being a part of that program. And then the Vital Impacts program, I have my mentor, Brian Skerry, who's an incredible National Geographic photographer. If you don't know his work, please go check him out. He is insane, and
it'll all be in the show notes. Yep.
Absolutely lovely human as well. But for the Vital Impacts, I'm sort of working on a photo story, which is sort of a long-term project that I've been working on for about 6 months now, but I think this is going to be a couple of years in the making. So it's actually really close to home. It's a local story. So I'm from the south coast of the UK, and there's a little stretch of coast that's called the Solent, and it's an amazing biodiverse region, but it's also one of the heavily polluted and used waterways in the UK. There's 2 massive ports. It generates a lot of income for a lot of people, but there's a lot of habitat loss, coastal squeeze, and that type of thing. So there's 4 major habitats that are being damaged. So we've lost pretty much all native oyster beds. Seagrass meadows, the salt marshes, and ground nesting birds have also been heavily impacted. So there's this incredible program called the Solent Seascape Project, where they're rewilding this massive stretch of coastline, which for me is a very personal thing because I grew up on this coastline. So it feels very close to home, and it's making me fall more in love, I guess, with, I've traveled the world and I'm finding so much beauty literally on my doorstep in mud flats and seagrass meadows and that type of stuff. So I'm documenting this incredible restoration.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. You're telling the story.
Yes, and yes, I'm one of, I'm sure, lots of other incredible storytellers, because it's such a big program. But I'm at the moment particularly focusing on seagrass. So I've kind of been following their journey with Project Seagrass. This weekend, I'm actually heading to the Isle of Wight, where I'm going to be going out with the local community and photographing locals collecting seeds from seagrass, where then they're going to be harvesting and then replanting certain areas where they've completely lost that seagrass meadow that was once thriving, and they're going to be replanting it next year. So yeah, I'm kind of following along on this very beautiful local story. So that's something that I'm kind of keeping me busy at home. But in terms of like projects, I've always got something on the go. Obviously, I've got the 200 Sharks project. So I've got many more.
How many have you done? How many have you done?
25 at the moment. And so, yeah, I've got lots more to go.
I love what you said before. You said you had that your partner said, it's going to take you a lifetime to do this. And you turned it to, you know what? I might have a lifetime, but the sharks don't. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, well, the sharks don't have that. So how can I make as much impact as possible? Because the whole point of this project is to raise awareness, and quickly. You know, we don't have, I mean, the project roughly is going to take 4 years at my current rate. I don't want to put too much pressure on it because life gets busy, but at my current 4 years, I'm like, yeah, but where are we going to be in 4 years' time? You know, in 2029, that's near 2030, which is apparently we have this pledge to protect 30% of the ocean.
It's totally artificial because it's not happening. So.
But I'm like, how is that going to happen? You know, we've protected 8.6% of, like 8.6% of our oceans right now is protected. And in those marine protected areas, a lot of bottom trawling is still happening. I mean, the UK is fantastic at that. We have a lot of marine protected areas. Guess what? We have bottom trawling happening at every single one of them from UNOC. Apparently, they're going to protect that. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. I don't believe the government until it's actually happening. But yeah, there's so much that we need to fight for. But yes, I have my 200 Sharks project, and I've always got something on the go.
Well, I got one more thing for you, because I tell stories with voice, and I'm so excited to turn, because I saw that you had an interaction with somebody online about this, to turn these stories into children's books and some other. And the part that I need incredible partner on is the visual. So maybe you and I can take, because every one of these creatures that you've mentioned so far, you've brought up some incredible resilience, that something incredibly unique about each one of them that you have deeply connected with, clearly deeply connected with who they are as unique, deeply adapted creatures. And that's where the resilience lesson comes from. So I'm going to hound you, and we're going to see if you can do this with me. So
I would love to.
Awesome. And so famous last words coming, that are going to become famous from Francesca Page. Like, what do you got for us that can just sort of wrap this up and bring us into this beautiful energy wrap up this beautiful energy that you've created around the love and the respect and the awe and the joy around connecting deeply to our world.
Yeah, well, I think I would encourage people, whoever's watching this, you have a talent, you have a skill, whether that is through art or it's through, we need lawyers, we need mathematicians, we need everyone in society. Everyone's got this really important skill set that can be used to protect our planet. Guess what? We need lawyers in conservation. We need mathematicians. We need everyone. We need the communicators. We need everyone. If your skill's talking, then go and talk. Go and stand up on stage and get an audience together and share that passion, share that wisdom. So I would encourage you to figure out what it is that makes you tick, your passion, and use that for good. Use that to protect our beautiful planet.
Oh, I love it. I love it. What's your superpower? Because everyone has one, and passion that's just pushing behind it. So find your space and just do it, right? Thank you. Thank you so much, Francesca. It's such a joy to be in sharing space with you. And I cannot wait to keep following your journey and your inspiration and the art that just lights me up and everybody else. So check the show notes out. There's going to be tons of stuff there about you, and we'll keep in conversation with Francesca. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
This has been a production of BLI Studios, produced by me, Kai. Follow along with our other BLI produced shows at balancinglifesissues.com/podcast-BLI. Got an idea for the show? Email me, Kai, at balancinglifesissues.com. And don't forget to stay in touch with your host, Jessica, at jessica@winwinwinmindset.com. Anything else to add, Miles?
Yeah,